What's up everyone, Andrew Baena here, and today is a very exciting video because for the first time in my life I am working with Ibanez guitars. Now I kind of mentioned this in my unboxing video, but I'm really excited about this one because I have played Ibanez guitars since I was about 15 or 16 years old or something like that. They are the company that I went to for my first 7-string, first 8-string, and first 9-string, so it's kind of cool that we've kind of come full circle and now I get to work with the brand directly and bring you one of their brand new 2023 models. This is the Ibanez RG9PB. So as far as I'm aware, this will be the first demo of this guitar available on YouTube. I could be wrong on that. Connor, put it in the corner if I'm wrong over here. But yeah, so this is essentially the updated RG9 9-string model from Ibanez. They've made 9-strings for a couple of years now. This is the newest iteration of that, which features a bunch of pretty welcome upgrades. I had the original RG9, which was, to be fair, a lot cheaper than this one, but I really like the upgrades that they made to this, and we'll talk about all of that in this video. But for the format of this video, essentially what's going to happen is I'm going to show you how this guitar sounds in a full demo mix, come back, talk about the specs and features of this instrument, show you a couple of soloed tone clips, and then last but not least, of course, give my thoughts and opinions on this guitar. Now, I do want to mention that this guitar was sent to me directly by Ibanez, but I do have to give it back, and they are not paying for this video. So it's kind of sponsored in the sense that I am working with Ibanez and they will see this video, but I'm not getting anything in exchange or compensation this time around. So I will try to be as unbiased as possible, and I want to get that all out there so you know what you're watching. With all that being said, here is the full demo mix of the Ibanez RG9. This is a song appropriately called 9, which was written by myself and Johnny Chardillo. You can also find it on Spotify, and the tuning is drop B. So basically we took that low C sharp down even lower to a B. So it's B, F sharp, B, E, A, D, G, B, E, I think. Something like that. You get the point. Anyways, enough talk. This is how the guitar sounds in a full demo mix. Okay, so now that you've heard how the Ibanez RG9PB sounds in a full demo mix, we're going to talk about the specs and features of this instrument. First and foremost, obviously it is a 9-string guitar, which is designed to tune very, very low without sacrificing those high strings. I know that I personally don't use the high strings too much, but if you want to go lower without giving up that higher range, then a 9-string would make sense for you. So while we're on the topic of the 9 strings, this is a 28-inch scale baritone guitar. So it is a little bit shorter for a 9-string. I do tend to prefer a bit longer. 29, 30 inches is usually my preference for 9 strings. But if you're keeping it to the stock C-sharp tuning, it'll be no problem. Even drop B is doable. It was a little bit loose, but it works if you pick a little bit lighter. While we're on the topic of the scale length and the neck, it has a McInally ebony fretboard on the top with these dot inlays. Flipping over to the back of the neck, we can see that it is a 5-piece neck, which is made out of maple with walnut stripes. On the headstock of the guitar, we just have some standard tuners. It is kind of unfortunate that they're not locking tuners in my opinion, but they are there and they're solid and they're tuners and they do the tuning thing. Also interesting, they don't mention this on the spec sheet, but the 2 lower strings tuning pegs are actually slightly different. You can kind of see it there, but basically the holes in the tuning pegs are actually a little bit bigger to compensate for the thicker string, which is actually a nice touch, because if you've ever played an 8-string and wanted to put in thicker strings, you know that it might be kind of a pain because you have to literally drill the tuning peg out. So it's nice that they do that in advance for you there. And it looks like maybe the ratio for the tuning peg is a little bit bigger because of these larger tuning posts, but I could be wrong on that. And of course it has that dual truss rod access right there as well. As for the pickups and electronics, we are rocking the Fishman Fluence Modern Humbucker Alnico in the neck and the ceramic in the bridge. These pickups sound really, really good and are by far the most welcome upgrade for this line of guitars. The stock RG9 pickups were a little bit not my favorite, so these are much, much better. We have a volume, a tone knob, a 3-way pickup selector, and a coil tap switch over there. And then last but not least, of course, the standard Ibanez Gibraltar bridge, except, you know, with 3 extra strings. Okay, so now that you've heard how the guitar sounds like by itself, last but not least, it's time to give my thoughts and opinions on this guitar. Again, I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible here, so bear that in mind. But yeah, this guitar overall is a massive, massive improvement over the original RG9 guitar, mostly due to those pickups, better hardware, and obviously it looks a lot cooler in my opinion. You know, a standard gloss black RG is fine, but this one in my opinion looks much, much fancier, and I really like how it looks and plays. The coil tap is always a nice feature to have. It's interesting that they chose to do it as a switch rather than a push-pull pod or something like that, but you know, works as you would expect it does. sounds cool, more tonal options. It's not personally something that I would use very often, but I know for a lot of like tappy, thumpy people, it would be a really cool feature. Overall, I think this guitar looks, plays, and feels really, really well. There are two things that I personally don't like. They don't necessarily affect the structural integrity of the guitar or anything like that. It is a little bit of personal preference, but what I would have loved to have seen is some locking tuners, especially on a 9-string with so many strings. You know, having those locking tuners would just really help speed up the restringing process. And in my opinion, every guitar should always have locking tuners for that reason. But yeah, when you got 3 extra strings, you want it to be as fast as possible. So that would have been a nice feature to have. I'm not sure if maybe they couldn't do that due to those 2 bigger tuning posts like I was mentioning. Maybe that has something to do with it. I'm not quite sure, but I would have loved to have seen that. The only other thing I can think of that I personally would have liked more is a bit of a longer scale length. Now, I understand why Ibanez does 28 inches is because, you know, having the high strings at 28 inches is already pushing it quite a bit. You know, it gets way harder to play leads the longer the scale length is, so I understand that it was kind of a compensation between being too long and too short. So they kind of went for a middle ground 28-inch scale option. Obviously, if it was fanfret or something like that, that would also relieve that issue, but it would also add a lot of increase to the cost, I would imagine. So personally for me, I would have liked to see like a 30-inch scale, but I understand that for people that play leads, they probably actually prefer it at 28 inches. So your mileage may vary and it will depend on your playing style. But again, that's kind of personal preference and up to you, really. So yeah, all in all, I am really, really impressed with this guitar. I look forward to playing it a little bit more before I head out on tour. I do have to give it back, and this will be the show model at the NAMM show. So if you're going to that, you will play this exact one there. Again, big thank you to Ibanez for trusting me to make a demo of this guitar, especially the first one, and with trusting me with the only existing model at this point in time. Very cool of them, and a very cool way to work with Ibanez for the first time. So yeah, just big thank you to Scott Miller and Dan over at Ibanez for helping to make this happen. Last but not least, a massive thank you to all my Patreon members whose names are on the screen at this point in time. If you are interested in audio downloads, guitar tabs, stems, or a shout out on the screen, you can find all that information over on my Patreon page. That's all I got to say. I hope you enjoyed this video. Look out for more Ibanez content in 2023. Maybe I'll get that RGD MSA. It looks pretty nice. But yeah, thanks for watching. Look forward to your comments, and I'll see you next time.